Hi guys, so welcome to another video lesson in web development training that we have started. This is going to be a fourth video. So if you have followed previous lessons, you would see how we created our first HTML program and then we ran it on a browser and we have hello world. Today we're going to continue very quickly, but then I'm going to show us this website called flatuicolors.com. Then here is where we're going to be getting a color code, the hexadecimal values of the color I'm going to use throughout this lesson. Why do we need that? Is because we don't want to be using a naming convention, color convention that goes with the name like blue, red, and green, other stuff. So we want to use the proper and the recommended color naming convention. All right. So today we're going to continue by turning our page into a somehow dark background. I wanted to have a dark background. Maybe that's give us a very intuitive design. And for us to do that, we come right under this body tag. After the close of body tag, you enter in and then we use our style element. The style element is used to add CSS internally or using the inline method to our HTML code. I want to say that again. We use style elements to add internal or inline CSS in our HTML code. So I want to use some CSS properties to turn a background to somehow a black color. So I'm going to use a selector, which is body, followed by curly braces. And then I would call CSS property, which is background color. And then the value of this background color, I'm going to choose from flat UI colors, and I'm going to choose midnight blue. So once I click on it, it will select midnight blue for me, and I'll come right here and paste it, and then there's going to be a background color. Okay, it looks nice. All right, feel free to choose any color of your choice. We are learning. After that, I'm going to get rid of this hello world so that we'll start developing our page very well. What we want to create today is navigation bar, and first I'm going to use comments to decorate our code so that it'll be easy for everyone to read and understand what we are building. A comment in HTML is used, like I've said, to decorate code and to give a little bit of idea of what each of our code segments stands for. It is good for ourselves who are writing the code, and it's also good for other programmers who may want to view our code. You can easily understand the flow of the program we have written. So for you to bring up, use the shortcut from the keyboard if you're on Windows to put in comment, you just press Control and /. It gives you this sign, and then in between you type what you want. Right here I want to type navbar because that's what we want to create. Then I will start by creating a division, a div element with a class name navbar, but using emet abbreviation, which is a function, a functionality in VS Code. It will enable us to use shortcuts instead of writing everything in code in full. If I don't want to use shortcut, I'll just open this bracket and I type in div space class, then you put equal sign to bring up quotation sign, and you begin to type just like that. But using shortcut is pretty much easier. You put in dots and then type the class name. I'm going to give my own class name navbar and hit enter. It generates everything. Okay. Then I'm going to include a logo followed by the menu items. And the logo, I'm just going to put in IMG. Then the next is to bring up, we had created this folder here, which is going to carry all our images. So the next is to bring up our logo and put it inside this folder. Go ahead and do that. So I'm going to drag my logo right here and then drop it here. So I have my logo. Then let me explain the image syntax. IMG is the keyword that tells our browser that this is an image element. SRC stands for source, and that is where you specify the source of the image that you want to include. So here, our source is going to be IMGS. So I hit enter again. So this is going to be our source. Then alt stands for alternative text that described, gives a very little description of the image that you are using. And this is good for those who have visual impairment, those who use reading aids, for them to understand what is going on your website. So here I'm going to call this um, golden marks logo. Okay, that's good for me. And then because of XHTML, all right, so you need to give space and then close this with a forward slash. All right, then if you don't put forward slash, it's going to work, but you need to meet the W3C standard of writing HTML. That's why we included this forward slash here. So let's view a page. Wow, so the logo here is pretty large, and then do not worry, we're going to work on that very soon. So I've added the image. I'm also going to I'm going to give this image a class, and that class, I'm going to call it logo class. I'm going to call it logo. That's good. Then next is going to be our menu items. So I'm going to use something that we call list. All right, and we have two types of list: ordered list and unordered list. So I'm going to just quickly give us example of list. Unordered list, which we are going to use, has a tag UL, which stands for unordered. Then inside the unordered list, you begin to list out the items with LI for short, which stands for list. And then the first thing I want to have there is home. Then okay, let me just put contact us, and then the third one is going to be about us, and I'll make it let me just include this portfolio. Good. Okay, viewing our page again. All right, we have it here. This is our menu items. Then I think we have added it. We're also going to give a class name to this, and the class name I will give to the unordered list, I will call it nav dash item. Okay, then nav item is good. All right, So very quickly, the next thing we're going to do is I'm going to create another file where we have our CSS. So I'll come back here, click on this file, new file, and I'll call it style.css. Okay, here we want to style our navigation, and then it's right here that we're going to do that. We're going to do it right in our CSS file. So I'm going to first of all write a code here before we connect it so that you see how the connection works. I can decide to bring up this one, right? I can bring up this into the CSS, which I'm going to do. Let me cut this out. I'll cut this, and then using Control X, then I'll delete this. So you see our page is going to return to white background. All right, because the code is no longer there. Then I'm going to paste it in our CSS file. But then you observe that nothing has changed because this CSS file is a separate file on its own, and then the HTML is separate on its own as well. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to use a link element to connect the CSS and the HTML together. So just put it right under here. I'll type in link, and link is the element that allows us to connect either external resources or documents to HTML. Then this rel is to establish a relationship between this current document, which is HTML, with the external document we want to connect, which is CSS. And the value of this relationship is going to be the name of the document or the file or the resource that we want to connect. At this point, we're connecting style sheet, which is our CSS. Then href now gives us the URL link, and then it's just going to be the name of our style sheet. So we're going to review this the proper ways of linking different resources and different pages later on. So we are at this point we have successfully established a relationship between the HTML and CSS. I think we go back and view our page, we see that the color is back again. That's good. So let's go very quickly to style the logo first. I think that's good. So I'll come down here and I'll put so I can put dots logo. Just watch out what I'm going to do here, and I assign a width of maybe 200 pixels. Okay, and I do that. You see our logo is reduced in size, right? But it's pretty high. I'm going to use 150. Okay, might not be too small. Can use 100. Just choose. Okay, 100 is way too small for me, so I'm going to use 150. Then there are other things I would like to do on this image. So let's take, for instance, I want to use maybe a border radius, and then I put 50% of border radius to turn into a circle, a round logo. That is good. Okay, so and then the next thing is to style we're going to style these menu items. The menu items need to be at the right side while the logo remain at the left side. So we're going to use what we call float. The logo, I'm going to float it to the left. All right. Then we'll go to the next, which is going to be our nav. Yeah, I call that nav dash item. Then I would explain very quickly why we need to put dot here. It's because this is a class name, right? Anytime you are referencing a class in your CSS, you need to put dot. But then if you are referencing an ID, you use hash sign. That's why we're using it like that. Without putting the dot, it's not going to work. So here, let me first float. I'll float it to the right. Okay. Then you see what we have here. This is here, and this is going to be here. Then I'm going to use a property called display. If I use display block, what is going to happen? Nothing is happening. Why is there nothing happening? So we need to be mindful of how to use our CSS properties on these navigation. We need to know how to select the elements properly for styling. So what I had done is I styled all the unordered list together. That's why I called this class name. But then if I want to style the list items inside the unordered list, I need to change my selector. Sorry. So for that, what I need to do is I would come down, I'll get rid of this because that was a wrong approach. I'll come down and then I said dot nav item space li, which stands for list. All right, then I can then maybe choose display and then block. Let's see what's gonna happen. All right, it got rid of the dots that we have here. And another thing is it did not display it. I want it to be in horizontal form. So it did not give us exactly what we want, but it did something actually. So let's add something like inline dash block. Then when we do that, and then it has given us what I want. This is what I needed. So this it has given to us. And from here, we can start adding other styling properties like we use the font size. The font size here, I'm going to use something like 1.25 EM, and then I'm going to use font weight. I'm not going to use all the properties now. Later on, I will explain 600, and then okay, let me choose a font family. A font family here, I'm going to choose Time New Roman. And then when you check, this is what we have. Now, the font size, I think, is, let me increase this to 7.5. That's good. But I think it's becoming way too big. 5.2. Just play around. Okay, I like it this way. Just play around these values. That is the only way you can get used to what we're doing here. And I want to change the color. The color here, like I said, we're not using color names. So I will come back to my and I use clouds. I would use clouds, then I paste it here, and then that's going to change the color. That's good. But you see that there is no space between each of those items. And for us to create space, I'm going to use a padding. And once I use padding, I'm going to add space around the four corners. So I may use something like 15 pixels, and that's way too big. Okay, 10 pixels. Okay, it's good like this. I think that's fine. And then we can also decide to reduce the size of the logo in a situation where it is maybe too big. While I'm doing all of this, I can actually go straight and do what I want to do, okay, because I know I have what I want to do on my head. But it is not going to be so good. Why? Because we need to feel so comfortable playing around with all these values, and you check the outcome. That would help you actually to understand how these stuffs work. That's why I'm just taking my time to play around them. Having said that, I think we have a navigation bar with a logo. And still, there's something I want to add. I want to create a little bit of gap between this side and up and down, around all the navigation container. And then the main container here is this nav bar. So on the nav bar selector, which I have not called yet, so I'm going to call that up here. So I'm going to call dot nav bar, and in between here I'm going to pass in a property called margin, that is to create space. And the margin, I'm going to give it, well, let's check 30 pixels. Okay, I think that's good. So the margin creates a gap between the background color and the elements inside. So it has created this gap up, left, right, up, and as well as down. So I think it's cool like this. But then the last thing I'm going to do before I end this class is I want this to be permalinks, right? When you hover on it, it should give us a hand symbol as well as the logo. I want to make them to be clickable. So to do that very quickly, we start from the logo. So I'm going to wrap up this logo. I'm going to wrap up the logo, and to wrap up the logo, I'm just going to create anchor tag a href, and then I'm going to give it a dead link by putting in hash sign in there, and I'll close this. Now you see it creates a close tag automatically for me. So here I'm going to copy this close tag. Be careful from here, then cut it off, put it at the end this way. All right, so right here it's a clickable logo, but then if I click on it, it just add this hash sign here because it's a dead link for now. So we're going to do the same to these all these menu items that we have. So I paste it here. Go ahead and set up yours. Then I would copy this carefully, put it at the back. So right, I'm cutting and I'm pasting it again. Cut and paste. All right. Then when you come here, see, this has changed our navigation, and then we need to then style it over again. Not changing what we had done, but we just need to add a little more styling properties here. So I'm going to copy this and then bring it down, paste it, give space, add a, that is to target the anchor tag that we just added. And for us to get rid of this underlining, then we just put text decoration, put it to none, and then that to get rid of that. And then this color that we added here, I'm going to move it from here to here, and then we'll see how it goes. So it's fine. Okay, there are other pseudo classes that we're going to use to add other features to this navigation. We can also add a background if we so wish to add a background, but that is going to be in our next lesson. Thank you. And before we continue, before we end this class, I would ask you to recreate what we've just created. All right, you can have a separate file in a separate, you can create a separate folder. You can create a folder here and then create all these files and start recreating them. When you study what we did here, then you'll be able to recreate the same. That will help you to understand what we are doing faster. Thank you for joining us in this class. Remember, blessed until we see again in our next class. Bye.